Thank you, Judge. Glad to have you on board.
Welcome. Let's get to work.
We proceed each meeting with a word of prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to ask a gentleman that I've known for a long time and that we're honoring tonight, the Reverend Odie Phillips, to come up and open us up with prayer. Pastor?
Thank you, Brother Mayor, the council. Let us bow our heads. Father, we thank you for the privilege, we're honored this evening to be a part of this gathering. And Lord, we ask that you would guide hearts, minds, and spirits, that all things be done decently and orderly. We ask it in Christ Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Reverend, if I could ask you to hold up there just a second, we'll do just real
Yes,
quick.
sir.
Now call this meeting to order. Mr. Garrett, would you call the meeting to order?
Mr. Hawkins?
Here.
Mr. Grimes?
Here.
Miss Mel?
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter? Here. Mr. Hawks?
Here.
Mr. Jones? Miss Isbell?
Here.
And you should have received copies of the minutes from October 8th, 2024. Any changes, corrections, or comments?
Make a motion for approval as submitted. Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes as submitted. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
That passes 7-0. Now the fun part. Pastor Phillips and I go a long way back. We were in the 1991 Faulkner County Leadership Institute together, and we have remained good friends ever since then. If I'd known he was going to wear hot pink tonight, I would have worn my sky blue. But one thing that I do notice about Odie is his whiskers have gotten wider than mine.
They've been right.
And I've lost more hair.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's an honor for me to be here tonight, Reverend. So,
Likewise.
let me read this. I know your beautiful wife and your sister here. Son, oh good. Glad you're all here tonight. City of Conway, Arkansas, proclamation by Mayor Bart Castleberry celebrating Pastor Odie Phillips. Whereas Pastor Odie Phillips celebrated 34 years in ministry as a faithful pastor, teacher of the Fellowship Christian Church in the city of Conway, and whereas Pastor Phillips has a long-standing history of involvement in the Conway community and is involved in every aspect of Greater Fellowship Ministries, and whereas Pastor Phillips has an extensive background and training in counseling and public relations, whereas he serves as a staff member of the Conway Public School District where he counsels, instructs, and provides correction to at-risk youth, and whereas Pastor Phillips is a man of God with a vision for the 21st century, he teaches the Word of God with authority that enables and empowers people, and whereas Pastor Phillips is a pastor who labors in the Word, in the church, and in the community. Now therefore, I, Bart Castleberry, Mayor of the City of Conway, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim October 8th, 2024, as a day to honor and celebrate Pastor Odie Phillips for 34 years of dedicated service. Odie, it is my honor. Come on up here, Council.
Take a shot.
We'll let y'all get a family photo, then we'll fill in here.
So good to see you again. Good to see you. God, good to see you.
Picture to Chanel.
Did you?
Which one?
Just look right over me.
Thank you guys.
All right. First up on tonight's agenda is community development. Mr. Hawkins will turn this over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on this portion of the agenda is consideration to approve waiving of all three readings for the ordinances for tonight's city council agenda. And
Make a motion that we waive the three readings.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve waiving the three readings for tonight's meeting. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins.
next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution to approve the use of EECBG, that's Energy Efficient and Conservation Block Grant for the city of Conway. And good evening. Tell us what we need to know.
Yes, sir. So this resolution you have before you, like Mr. Hawkins said, regarding the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program. With this program, we're eligible to receive a little over $125,000 if we just apply for it. Now, previously, I came back to you guys in May of this year and proposed a project that would install solar rectangular flashing beacons around the city. Well, after discussions with the Department of Energy, they alluded to, or they told us that this was an ineligible project. So we're kind of going with a plan B here, and we're applying this time with your approval for up to 3 hybrid vehicles that are eligible for these funds. If you have any questions, I'd love to take them.
Make a motion to approve the resolution number
R 2468.
68.
I have a motion and a second to, I'm sorry,
That'd be R
49.
2450.
R2450. Okay. Thank you.
I was like,
I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance to approve a donation of a fire apparatus for the Conway Airport. And Chief, tell us some.
I'm not Jacob Riley. so-
You are,
I know.
well, you're not, and I wasn't sure how to approach that. So
Thank you, sir.
continue.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. And this is Jacob Riley. He's been working on this for quite some time. He got with the Little Rock Airport. They have purchased a whole new fleet of airport firefighting trucks, and they were donating their old ones. And Mr. Briley got on top of it, got with me, got with the mayor, to know if we would be interested. And so they have agreed to everything. They're wanting to donate one of their old rigs to us, a firefighting rig. We're just asking for y'all to accept that donation.
Council and people at home, this is not your typical firefighting rig. This is CFR. What I understand, Mike, is it a CFR?
The ARF truck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But the initials have changed since I left.
Yes.
My bad. Anyway, it's what you see at airports.
So will the airport staff be trained to use it, or will
No.
require firefighters?
No, we'll teach them to check it, but no, they won't be trained in the operational use of it, but they will store it there.
If
So
it
we'll-
is needed, your crews can show up and they're
Yes,
for
sir.
them.
Yes, sir, ready to go.
Yeah, as the city grows out that direction,
Mhm.
there's going to be a need for a fire station out there
Yeah.
at some point in time. It probably sooner than later.
make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance O2468. Is that correct?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Hawks?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mount?
Aye.
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance appropriating funding for the Culture in the Park event held by the Diversity Advisory Council. And Shawana, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We held our second annual Diversity Culture in the Park. Great event. We received donation funds for that event in the amount of around $4,200, and we would like to appropriate that funding.
An accounting measure, is all this one is.
Yes. Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance O2469.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance, appropriating donation funds for the Diversity Advisory Council. Any further discussion? And great job on that,
I
by
was
the
going to
way.
say, no more discussion, but it was a great event. Attendance was up significantly over last year, and I think they're already getting ready for year 3.
We are. Thank you all so much for supporting and showing up. And it was great having the community out and being able to feed everybody and have a good time. So thank you.
Thank you, Shawana.
Mr. Garrett.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
and Mr. Hawks.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Mr. Hawks, you and I are going to have to be careful
I was just
who
thinking.
calls what when.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Next item on the agenda is consideration to approve a request to to waive the 12-month waiting period for the resubmittal of an amended application to rezone property at 3310 Prince Street from R1 to R2A with a conditional use permit to use an office restricted use for a legal practice. And
Hello,
how are you?
I'm well. How are you guys? Congratulations, Mr. Hawks. This request was before the Planning Commission at its September 16th meeting. The Planning Commission denied the request to rezone this property to an O3 zone to accommodate a law office for Mr. Jamison Bonds. The applicant was given an opportunity at that meeting to amend the request and chose to move ahead with their original request to the O3. So the commission have voted to deny it. The applicant has now asked to come back before the 12 months is up and intend to file for an R2A and a conditional use request, which was what they were given the opportunity to do at the Planning Commission. It would keep it all residential. The highest density use would be a duplex if it was rezoned to R2A. But they'll have to apply for a conditional use as well to make it an office. Any questions?
Ms. Walters wanting to speak to this?
Yes.
If you would, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. My name's Jamison Bonds, and I'm at 39 Sandstone Drive, Conway, 72034. And yeah, that is right. We initially went to the Planning Commission to try to have it rezoned to 03. And prior to that point, we didn't know there was any opposition to it, and that's the path we thought we were supposed to go down. And in the middle of that hearing, some discussions happened during the hearing that said, well, maybe 03 is not suitable, but maybe R2A with a special use permit is. But prior to that time, we hadn't been told that that might be an amendable prospect for us to go down that route. And so we learned about it at that hearing, and we were given 2 or 3 minutes to try to make a decision. I panicked under a tight deadline, and I screwed up, and I should have gone ahead and withdrawn the application. But I didn't. I tried to push forward, and now I'm hoping you guys will see to it. If you can give us the chance to go at it again, we sure would appreciate it.
Council, any questions?
And if I could, what was the commission's regard for what is being requested now? Did they get a chance to look at it that way or not?
Well, there was discussion about changing the request from an 03 to an R2A. The heartburn basically is that you're putting something in the middle of single-family houses. That's not a single-family home. That was most of the opposition. Several people that spoke against it or spoke at the meeting that were neighbors didn't necessarily have a problem with Mr. Jamison having a law office there. They just had problems with it rezoning to an office. They wanted it to stay a residential zoning.
And you believe that the commission would have forwarded that recommendation to us with an approval?
I have no way of knowing that.
Okay.
I don't know. I actually wasn't at that meeting. Somebody else was taking care of it. So
But didn't this come before us as well?
no,
It
it
did
was
not
denied.
come
It
before.
was denied at the Planning Commission, but you guys have to approve the waiving of the 12 months.
So it didn't come before the city
No.
council for a vote?
It was denied at Planning Commission.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or
And I
against this?
got-
I'm sorry, yes, sir.
So, they decide not to put an office,
decide to put an office there, they're going to have to come to us.
Yes, it'll have to go back before Planning Commission. They'll ask for a rezone to R2A with a conditional use permit. Planning Commission will vote it up or down.
They can put a duplex there.
Yes, at some point in the future, that's the highest density that it would take.
But you're talking about a duplex in a single-family home neighborhood?
Yes, sir.
Tonight, you're just needing to vote up or down. On whether
For the
you can go back
12-month
through it.
moratorium. Yes,
It'll
sir.
go back through the whole process.
Yes, they'll have to start from the beginning and apply all over again.
Is there anyone else in attendance that'd like to speak for or against?
Hi, I'm Emily Walter. I'm the original applicant. I'm a realtor with RE/MAX and represent Mr. Bonds, and I'm also chair of the Historic District Commission. And so when I applied through the city, I think the city was under the assumption that I knew the zonings and everything. I personally applied for an O2 because it is quiet office. Mr. Bonds has an office in Fort Smith. That's his main office. So he has a minimum or a maximum of 10 people that would be going through his real estate office at a time. So to me, it made sense for O3. When we got here, and we were told ahead of time they were going to deny it, but we could still proceed. But they never gave us any other options. And so he spent the money, mailed the letters out, did all this. And then when we got here, we were told there's other options that we can go R2A with a conditional use permit. Because the neighbors, one thing, like Ann said, was they're fine with the law office going in, but once it's zoned O3, they can't control what else goes in after he moves out. I get it, fair point. So we were literally given like a 3-minute recess to scramble and figure it out with absolutely no knowledge of anything. And so we're just asking for the 12-month waiver, that's all. And then we will start it all over again. So,
I got a question.
yes, sir.
They told you on the front end it was gonna be denied, and y'all still went through it?
Yeah, I mean, with HGC, things get denied all the time, and they still come forward to us and ask us, for an exception to the rule. And so they told us it would be denied O3, but they never said like, it's denied O3, but here's an option you can go to. They just said it was denied. And so they said, but you can still mail your letters and you can still put the signs up. Well, in order for us to go R2A with a conditional use permit, we would have to mail different letters. And so we couldn't just use the same letters as like a letter to the neighbor as before. We had to start the whole process all over again. So we were never given that path to take until we got here, and then we had 3 minutes to make a decision.
I'm confused. When were you told it would be denied? And who told you that?
So the city, Lauren or Rebecca, somebody called us and said that it's not that they are recommending denial.
Okay. Thank you.
Recommending denial.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
that's a big difference.
Okay.
Recommending denial.
Okay.
And being chair of HGC, we get recommended denials all the time. We make exceptions to the rule.
It was almost anticipated to go that way. And he went ahead and go to the planning commission and then later to you guys, and it got approved. So I just thought that was sort of part of the process, that they were resistant to go ahead and recommend changes. But
We need to find out who is telling people it's gonna be denied before it goes. I think it's just a staff recommendation.
that's
Yeah,
it.
the
It's
staff
called a
is a
staff
staff
recommendation.
recommendation.
And they made it clear to us on the front end, even though we're recommending to the board that it get denied, they're like, things go the other way all the time. But this is just our recommendation, and we want to be transparent with you and tell you that ahead of time.
So when you were told that, there was no other option that was given,
No, ma'am.
but someone had mentioned it at the planning commission level when you were before the planning commission?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. Yeah, as we were talking, we testified, then a gentleman who spoke against it, a lawyer that had been hired the day of, and I got notified of the opposition the day of, talked.
Mhm.
And then Beth Skeeto came. She's a neighbor of 3310 Prince Street.
Mhm.
And she came to speak, and she said she was in opposition of it getting zoned O3 because she didn't know later on if like a busy clinic got built there.
Right.
But she's the one that opened up the discussions about the R2A. She said, even though I'm opposed to O3 rezoning, R2A might be more suitable and they might be more open to this. And that's when that suggestion and that idea popped up the first time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I actually watched that planning commission meeting. I guess My only thing with this is that we have the rule, and with that being mentioned, and you not taking the opportunity at that time to do anything different concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, it concerns me too, and that's why I'm here for sure. Yeah, I had 3 minutes to make a decision. I regret the decision I made, and that's why I'm here with my arms open saying, could you help her brother out?
Okay, so I gotta say
Yeah.
something else.
We help every brother out.
You wanted this to be an office, right?
Yes, sir, that's
So
right.
that's what the intention was.
That's right.
So you couldn't get an office, so you're gonna go for duplexes.
No, sir. No, they said that we could operate an office in an R2A with a special use permit. And so I think the difference, I could be wrong, but if it got zoned 03 and later we sold the building, someone could demolish the building and build a new building there with a big parking lot was the concern. Where if it got zoned R2A with a special use permit to operate an office, it would have to happen in the existing structure, I think is the difference.
With the, I was gonna say, with the conditional use permit, the minute he sells that property, it goes right back to R1. So,
No.
No.
oh, I'm sorry, it goes back to R2A, yes. So it won't be O3. So there's not gonna be a doctor's clinic that can go in there. You had a question?
But by right, they could build a duplex. They could tear that down and build a duplex.
If it's rezoned to R2A, yes, by right, they could build a duplex.
And sir, I don't know if it matters, but right now there's the main house and also a carriage house, 650 square foot, that could also be leased right now as 2 separate units. So even if it did get rezoned duplex one day, that's not my intent. It could already house that many tenants right now legally.
And one other thing, if I could, what about a more restrictive office zone?
There is nothing more
There's
restrictive.
nothing other than a 3?
Right.
Thank you.
I mean, we're debating things that aren't really germane to just the
Right.
waiver, but it is part of the thought process because I think everyone would agree, law office in this spot, in that house, fine.
Right.
But I think what you're getting at, R2A, the next person that owns it, put up a duplex, that's to me is even worse than might go in 03. So I realize we may be kind of stuck with the second part of this. We haven't addressed the first part of it.
Right.
But we need to work on some other mechanism to allow something like this in current zoning without having this ordeal. And it may just be that you could, by conditional use, have a law office in R1. That would fix it. We amended our zoning to allow that. Anyway, that said, back to the original motion at hand, or the issue at hand, that 1 year deal is there for a reason, and we need to be very judicious with it. This, in my personal opinion, is probably one case where it's narrow enough, one little piece of property, not a big development, one little piece of property that I'm okay with granting the waiver. But again, I don't know if we're going to have a resolution after that, but that's not the question tonight. Well, it wasn't long ago we had a similar situation, and we said we're going to stick with the rules we had been doing, if I remember correct.
You pull your microphone down. Thank you.
If I remember correct, that's what we said the last time. It wasn't that long ago we had this similar situation, and we said we're going to stick with the rules we've been abiding by. Regardless if it's 1 door or 2 doors, that's what we said, and that's just my opinion. I respect that opinion, but we do give ourselves an out. We do give ourselves an out by having this opportunity to vote for it. So, yeah.
So, Ann, I know you weren't, Ms. Tucker, you were not at the Planning Commission meeting, so maybe others who were there. Were the neighbors who were in opposition more okay with the R2 with conditional use? I mean, was that something that you got a sense that they would?
Not many of them got to speak on that issue. They had already spoken by the time the R2A thing was brought up. So I don't know. Beth Skeeto was one that said personally she was okay with that. But she was the only one that I heard actually say that.
So yes, everything she said, but also Beth went above and beyond and wrote me an email the next day, kind of mapping out another aspect of how we could get what we wanted, and that she was in support of the R2A conditional use permit. She sent it to me, I forwarded it to him, and then they exchanged information, and I think she's been helping him kind of figure this aspect out. So she is okay with it, and I know she's one neighbor of hundreds, but she is okay with it and actually helped us on the afterwards to get us here today. So
Who owns the property right now?
who owns the property? Billy Morris and Nancy Morris.
So you're selling the property to him?
Yes, I represent him as a buyer's agent, and when you do go and try to rezone something that you don't own, we had to get a letter from them allowing this to happen.
So is this contingent on the sale?
Not
So-
anymore. It was, but not anymore.
Council, any more questions? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council at this time. Does anyone else in the audience like to speak for or against? We'll bring this back to the council. Council, if you make a positive motion, there are 7 of you present. It'll take 2/3 of the vote, so 6 of you will have to vote in the positive in order for this to pass. With that?
Explain what a positive means.
Okay, so on this one, it's actually just as it says. If we get a motion in a second, then we'll bring it to the council, then the council will vote. It'll take 6 yes votes for this to be approved, 6 of the 7. So if you fail to get 6 of the 7, then this motion and this will fail.
I move that we approve the request to waive the 12-month waiting period.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve removing the 12-month waiting period on this piece of property. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, the motion fails. Just let's show of hands, all those that voted in the positive for a yes. That is 3, and the no. That is 4. So the resolution fails. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Hawkins?
Sir, Mr. Mayor, let me find where I need to be.
You're on
Ms.
number
Tucker, you're
6.
back up here,
I
so
am.
I'm going to
My
assume.
last time of the night.
I'm going to assume that you're going to tell us about
New restaurant.
Jared Coleman of Blue Whale Development. Consideration to approve a request to waive a 12-month waiting period for the submittal of an amendment for property located at 2555 Prince Street for a conditional use permit to allow retail/general use. Ms.
Yes.
Tucker.
Okay, in May of this year, the council heard a request for a conditional use permit at 2555 Prince. At that point, it was going to be a Starbucks, and the council denied the request. So as these requests are tied to the property rather than the applicant, that property now has a 12-month moratorium on it. So the applicant is asking to come back and apply for another CUP. They intend to put a Rotolo's Pizza without a drive-through on the site, and it requires council approval to do that.
I think one part of the problem, they didn't have a
Access.
shared driveway then.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yes, that's correct.
that's correct.
So are they gonna grant it this time?
We will find that out.
In the letter, it states that they had conversations about that, the shared
Yeah, they
driveway.
would do it, they just talking about
Has also worked through an agreement with Shadrack's ownership on the shared use of curb cut off Prince Street. I guess that's.
So
the
at this
question for the
time, it looks like it'll be okay, but there's no guarantees. I mean, we're not there in that process yet.
Yeah, someone would like to speak to this, to the council? I'm sorry, council, did y'all have any more questions for Ann before she stepped away? I'm sorry. Would you please state your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Yes, Jared Coleman, Blue Whale Development, 1400 West Markham, Little Rock, Arkansas. Yeah, so we just appreciate you guys having us. As was mentioned, we took this through previously for a Starbucks. We made it through planning commission. We believe it was like 7-0 during planning commission. We were turned down at council. I believe the conditions there was really no issue with. It was just the drive that was being opposed by Shadrack's, and I guess having a coffee shop next to a coffee shop. Since then, we have met with the owner of Shadrack's, told him our new plan. He seems to be on board. We have, somewhat of an agreement with him. He's even agreed to allow us to move the drive back a little bit. Clearly, that has to be approved, later on in the process. But we have just had preliminary conversations with him. We also met with Mayor Castleberry shortly after being denied and told him we wanted to continue kind of working through this, in which he at the time seemed supportive of. So yes, now we're here asking for your guys' consideration to allow us to bring this through as a Rotolo's Pizza. We believe it's a good fit for the area and think that the residents would benefit from it. And we don't, if the applicant, being us, had to wait until May of next year, and the owner as well, we don't know if that opportunity would be here then. So that's one of the reasons we're wanting to, come before you guys again.
And council, I would like to clarify in our conversation, that was with the stipulation that Shadrack's had been agreeable to it.
So do we have anybody here from Shadrack's?
We have anyone else that'd like to speak for or against?
I got a question for
Yes, sir.
the city attorney. Since this is a totally different thing, how's it going? What I'm saying is, do they have to go through the whole process of doing it all over again, or two different businesses? So if we waive bringing it back, are we waiving it for the coffee place that was there? Do we need to do that? When we voted that they couldn't bring it back for a year.
Correct.
Is it anything that states that you couldn't put a new business there without coming through this process? Say if he had it's like he's doing now with a different business.
It applies to the land, to the property.
To the property and the property owner?
Yes, sir.
Is the applicant here?
We are the.
Okay, I weren't sure. Oh, that worked. I wasn't sure if.
Yeah, we're together.
Okay, my bad. I thought you were here as a developer. That's my mistake.
I'm the one who met with Shadrack's.
Okay.
He was very much so in support of a pizza shop. Not only did it not conflict with his hours of business, he's in the morning is when his heaviest traffic flow is, and this place would not open until I think 11. They'd serve lunch, but also it's pizzas, it's craft beer, it's burgers, it's wings, and they would have a patio that hopefully would be adjacent to the trail. Without this conditional use, we would not be able to have that patio, and they may consider not to be at this location. This would be their first location in the state of Arkansas. They've got 32 locations across the South. Their first locations across from LSU's campus. And so they're really excited about coming here, and we hope you guys would allow us to take this through planning and back to you guys once we have a plan.
Thank you.
Pizza. Make a motion that we approve this request.
Have a motion and a second to approve this request to waive the 12-month waiting period for the resubmittal of rezoning.
This is a submittal rather than a resubmittal.
Correct? I'm sorry.
Yes.
The
This is
submittal.
a submittal rather than a resubmittal.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. For property located at
Yes, sir.
2555 Prince. Council? We have a motion and a second. Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, that passes 6-1, and that was the number of votes required to pass was 6. So, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you all.
Thank you, guys.
Tucker. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. I appreciate it, sir.
Sir. You're
Next
welcome,
on the
Mr.
agenda,
Mayor.
we have the Public Safety Committee, and we have an ordinance to approve the appropriations of insurance funds for the Conway EOC, which, for those of you watching on TV, is the Emergency Operations Center. Sean Kennedy is the director. Mr. Kennedy.
Good evening, council. So this is a pretty straightforward request or ordinance. We had some reimbursement funds from AT&T for an overpayment, and we just need to make sure it gets put back into the correct account that it came from. and that amount is $2,731.58.
Well, that doesn't come from AT&T very often, does it?
No, it doesn't.
I've never gotten one.
I was gonna say, I'll make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance 02470.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Hawks?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
That passes 7-0.
That's years of barking.
Thank you, Sean.
When the whistle's blown.
Next up, we have Chief Harris from Conway Police Department. Consideration to approve disposal of a vehicle for the Conway Police Department. Chief?
I just want to complain that you let the fire chief act as the airport director and still go before me.
You're not the last item on the agenda, though.
That's true.
For 50
That's
years,
true.
for 50 years, the fire department's had to go behind you guys.
So, yes, first, we're just requesting the removal of the 2008 Honda Accord from our inventory.
What do y'all, so folks at home will know, what do y'all typically do with these, Chief?
They will be sold through auction, as is.
Thank you, Chief.
Make a motion that we allow the disposal of this vehicle.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve this conditional use, to approve this disposal of vehicle for the Conway Police Department. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Passes 7-0. Chief, you're up again. An ordinance to approve the appropriation of reimbursement funds for the Conway Police Department. Tell the folks at home what we're talking about here, Chief.
Yes, we're just requesting additional funds for our fuel expense account to get us through the remainder of the year. Just for transparency's sake, one of the things we do to combat the high prices and everything is each night our supervisor, or each morning and night for our patrol, they put out a list of the cheapest gas prices. So we're not going to just going wherever to the closest gas station that has the highest prices. So
It's good play. Council, any questions for the chief?
Make a motion for this reimbursement.
Second?
Have a motion and a second to approve the appropriation of reimbursement fund for the Conway Police Department. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
It's the ordinance 02471. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Hawks?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
We're out of order.
Yeah.
What?
Out of order.
I think
Yeah,
the chief
we-
was
we-
talking
we-
about
yeah,
the
y'all
fuel
went
fund,
for
and then
one,
we
yeah.
skipped.
Yeah.
So we should finish the fuel
Yes.
one
And go
first,
back to the other.
and go back to the other.
Skipped over
Yeah,
3 and
there
went
was,
to 4.
this is for
Skip
the
the
yeah.
That's my bad. There's not, that's on me.
Can we finish it?
Yes, please finish the
All right,
vote.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
And Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
That's for the fuel.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Go back.
Now we're going back to 3.
Orders to approve the appropriation of reimbursement funds for the Conway Police Department?
That's
All
what
right.
I'll pay for this.
I think that was
Chief
on me.
Harris.
Yeah, I think I got mine out of order. We're requesting the reallocation of several reimbursements, mainly from extra duty services, to be placed back in their respective accounts.
Any further questions of the chief?
I'll make a motion for the adoption of this ordinance, which should be 02472.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance appropriation of reimbursement funds for the Conway Police Department. There's no further discussion. Mr. Garrett.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hawks?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Thank you, Chief. And I appreciate you guys putting that list out. Thank you. Okay, and last, we have our annual millage certification that is required of the city to submit to the Faulkner County Clerk's Office. For those of you at home, this is something that the city does annually. It is something that has been on the books for a number of years. It's for our pensions, police and fire, non-uniform personnel, but also some of these are voluntary as well. And we will start with the, no changes are being made. As I said, this is just a recertification. We'll start with a resolution of a voluntary levy of 0.2 mil on the dollar be made upon the assessed valuation of all taxable real estate and personal property tax for an animal shelter for the city of Conway.
Make a motion for the adoption of this resolution, R-2451.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0. Next up is a resolution again of a voluntary levy of 0.4 of a mil on the dollar be made upon the assessed valuation of all taxable real estate and personal property tax for recreation assessment, raising special revenue for the sole and exclusive purpose, providing additional funds for the purpose of construction, equipping, operating, and maintaining the public recreation and playgrounds of the city of Conway.
Make a motion for the adoption of this ordinance, R-2452.
Resolution.
I'm sorry, resolution, excuse me.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0. Resolution of a voluntary levy of 0.4 mil on the dollar be made upon the assessed valuation of all taxable real estate and personal property tax for raising special revenue for the exclusive purpose of operating and maintaining the cemeteries for the city of Conway.
Make a motion for the adoption of this resolution, R-2453.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0. Next up is a resolution of a levy of 0.4 mil on the dollar be made upon the assessed valuation of all taxable real estate and personal property tax for raising special revenue for the pension and relief fund for the policeman's pension and relief fund.
Make a motion for the adoption of resolution R-2454.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution for the policeman's pension and relief fund. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Resolution of levy of 0.4 tenths of a mil on the dollar be made upon the assessed valuation of all taxable real estate and personal property property tax for raising special revenue for the pension and relief fund for the fireman's pension and relief fund.
Make a motion for the adoption of the resolution R-2455.
Second.
No further discussion for the fireman pension and relief fund. Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0. Resolution of a levy of 0.4 tenths of a mil on the dollar be made upon the assessed valuation of all taxable real estate and personal property tax for raising special revenue for the pension and relief fund for the non-uniformed employees.
Make a motion for the adoption of the resolution R-2456.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution for the non-uniformed employees pension and relief fund. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0. Resolution of a levy of 0.3 of a mil on the dollar be made upon the assessed valuation of all taxable real estate and personal property tax for the general fund revenues.
Make a motion for the adoption of the resolution R-2457.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for this resolution for tax for the general fund revenues for the city of Conway. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
That's 7-0. And for those of you watching at home, this is just this is something we do annually. As I mentioned, several of those are voluntary, but the ones that are for our employees in general fund, those are ones that we have to redo every year, just like each of these. And it's very important for our police officers sitting in the back and for Mr. Ledbetter and me. So, but anyway, that's all we have. I think the city attorney wants to give you a quick briefing on something.
So yeah, I won't be long. This will only take about 2.5 hours.
Are we ordering pizza?
In 2022, this council approved a resolution, passed a resolution approving community crisis response team partnering between the police department, Conway, and counseling associates, and putting a police officer with a social worker to deal with mental health crisis on the street. And I just wanted to tell you that I see that. I don't see it as directly as the police officers on the street, but I see it as the guy who reads the reports. And what y'all did, the decision that you made to be leaders, are having a dramatic effect on the street. And just a couple weeks ago, Officer Hannah Fleming, who was, I think, the first officer selected to participate in this program, encountered a young man who was in an addiction crisis. And because of her efforts, because you put her in that position, that young man got into a rehab. That happens every day. It happens every night. It happens every morning, every weekend, in places that we may not see a lot, we may not visit a lot, and people we may not know and probably don't know. But I just wanted y'all to know that the decision that you made to lead in this area, to provide mental health treatment to the most vulnerable people in our community is paying off, and it's having a dramatic impact.
Thank you, Mr. Finkenbeiner. Yeah, I think their average response is 13, 14 responses a day. Doing a tremendous job, Council, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Hawks, not Mr. Hawkins, Mr. Hawks, welcome aboard.
And I'm the one that. We're adjourned.
Okay, I'm thinking it was Hawks. Okay, that's why I was like.
That is good.